So let's just jump right in. Could a week-old slice of pizza actually make you see things that aren't there? Is that extra large coffee really making you smarter? Or is it just making you do dumb things, but, faster and with more energy? We all have these gut feelings about how the world works, but how often is that feeling just totally, completely wrong?
I mean, our intuition feels so right, doesn't it? It's this powerful voice in our head, and when we happen to guess right, we remember it. We think, see, I knew it. But what about all the times we're wrong? We tend to just let those memories fade away. And that's the real problem, because relying on that gut feeling can be seriously misleading.
So how do we get around our own built-in biases to figure out what's really going on? How do we separate what we feel is true from what we can actually prove is true? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to use the power of science to see past our own flawed thinking and get to the truth.
Okay, before we get to the solution, we have to really understand the problem. And the problem, well, it's inside our own heads. Our brains, as amazing as they are, come with some, let's call them factory defects that make us think we're way smarter and more perceptive than we actually are. Let's look at 3 of the biggest culprits.
First up, we've got hindsight bias. You know this one. It's the I knew it all along effect. Imagine your buddy Bob is eyeing that sketchy pizza in the back of the fridge. You're like, dude, I wouldn't do that. He eats it anyway, and an hour later he's sick. And you, of course, say, see, I told you so. But let's be honest, if he ate it and was perfectly fine, would you even remember that you warned him? Nope, you'd forget all about it. We are wired to remember when we were right and quietly ignore when we were wrong.
And right alongside that is our old pal, overconfidence. Oh, we've all been there. You are 100% absolutely bet your life on it certain about something, only to find out you were spectacularly wrong. It's almost like our brain's default setting is, I'm probably right, even when we have no reason to be.
And for the third one, look, our minds are absolute pattern-finding machines. We are desperate to make sense of the world, so we see connections and meaning everywhere, even when we're just looking at pure random chaos. We see hot streaks in sports or gambling where there are none, which actually brings me to a perfect example of this. So if you were to flip a coin 5 times, which of these 2 outcomes seems more random, more likely? Almost everyone points to the second one, right? The first one, 5 tails in a row, just feels weird. It feels like something special is happening. But here's the kicker. Both of these sequences are equally likely, the exact same odds. It's just our brain trying to force a story onto something that is completely random.
So if our intuition is this bad, if we're overconfident, biased, and seeing patterns that aren't there, how can we possibly figure anything out? Well, lucky for us, we have a hero in this story. A system designed specifically to save us from our own flawed thinking. And it's called the scientific method.
It all starts with a theory. And when I say theory, I don't mean just a hunch. In science, a theory is a big idea that organizes what we've seen and helps us predict what might happen. From that big theory, you get a hypothesis. That's a specific, testable prediction. So a theory might be caffeine boosts brain power. The hypothesis would be something like, adults who drink caffeine will solve this puzzle faster than those who don't. See? Specific, testable.
Now, doing one experiment is a great first step, but here's the absolutely crucial part. A single test proves almost nothing. The real magic, the real power, comes from replication. Can other scientists in other labs with other people run your same experiment and get the same results? If the answer is yes, over and over again, then you're building real, reliable knowledge.
Okay, so how do psychologists actually go about building all this knowledge? Well, before you can explain why people do what they do, you first have to get a really good, clear picture of it. You have to describe the behavior. And for that, there are a few key tools in the psychologist's toolkit.
You've got case studies, where you look at one person or a small group in super fine detail. It can give you some amazing ideas. Then there's naturalistic observation, which is basically professional people watching, just observing how people act in their normal environment. And of course, you can just ask people, using surveys and interviews. All of these are fantastic for describing what's happening, but they can't really tell us why.
And surveys can be incredibly powerful. I mean, look at Alfred Kinsey. His work completely changed how we understood human sexuality, just by asking thousands of people about their private lives. But you have to be so careful with surveys. Who you ask is a huge deal. If you only ask one type of person, your results are going to be skewed. That's called sampling bias. And just as important is how you ask the question.
And this is just a perfect illustration of that.
I mean, think about it. These are basically asking the same thing. But the phrase space aliens probably makes you think of little green men and flying saucers. The second question, though, sounds a lot more scientific, more thoughtful. That subtle change in wording can completely change the answers people give you.
All right, so once we've described behavior, we can start looking for patterns, for things that seem to happen together. This is called correlation. And listen, if you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, please let it be this. Correlation is not causation. I'm going to say it again. Just because two things are related, it does not mean that one caused the other.
Let's go back to our friend Bob and that horrifying slice of pizza. He ate the pizza with the weird fungus on it, and then he started seeing green armadillos with laser beams for eyes. Okay, so eating the pizza is correlated with having hallucinations. But did the pizza cause it? Maybe. Or maybe he hadn't slept for 3 days. Or maybe he was in the middle of a massive migraine. Correlation points you in the right direction. It tells you something is going on, but it can't give you the final answer.
So to make that leap, to go from, hey, these two things seem to happen together, all the way to A causes B, we have to move beyond just watching and describing. We have to start experimenting. Experiments are the gold standard. They're the only way to truly isolate cause and effect.
A good, simple experiment needs at least 2 groups. You have your experimental group. These are the folks who get the treatment you're actually testing. And then you have the control group. They don't get messed with, or maybe they get a fake treatment. They're your baseline. They're what you compare everything against to see if your treatment actually did anything.
And to make sure the results are actually trustworthy, you need some safeguards. You use random assignment, just randomly putting people in either group to make sure the groups are as similar as possible from the start. You use placebos, like a sugar pill, to test for the power of belief itself. And the best of the best is a double-blind procedure, where neither the people in the study nor the researchers handing out the pills know who's getting the real thing. That eliminates bias from everybody.
Okay, let's put this all together. Let's take everything we just talked about and use it to finally settle that question from the beginning. Does caffeine actually make us better thinkers? It's time to run an experiment.
First, we need a solid hypothesis. Caffeine makes you smarter is way too vague, but this is perfect. It's specific. We have a clear action, giving people caffeine, and a clear, measurable outcome, how fast they can get through a maze. This is a question we can actually answer.
So here's our setup. The caffeine itself is what we call the independent variable. It's the one thing we're changing between the groups. We'll have a control group that gets a decaf coffee, so they think they're getting caffeine. Then we have one experimental group getting a low dose and another getting a really high dose. This way we can see if the amount of caffeine even matters.
And here's how we'd do it. First, you get everyone's permission to be in the study, then you randomly sort them into one of those 3 groups. Then, you give them their drinks and let the caffeine kick in. After that, you put each person in a maze and start the stopwatch. When it's all over, you take all the times, find the average for each group, and compare them. Did the caffeine groups actually navigate the maze any faster? That is how you find your answer.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that our brains are truly amazing, but they're also full of biases and shortcuts that can lead us astray. The scientific method isn't just some boring thing for people in lab coats. It's a way of thinking. It's a tool that lets us get past what just feels right and get a little bit closer to what's actually true. So I'll leave you with this. What common sense idea in your own life is just waiting to be put to the test?